We need to pull some holdo maneuvers.
This is where the fun begins.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
What's up?
I was just captivated by the opening, so it's so fun to watch that and get introduced with that. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, you got Kimar still hanging out there in the corner with Ralph for a little bit. Since
Totally fine with it.
Since he
This is
wasn't.
This is like the least interesting part of my backdrop are the blinds.
Too bad you can't like
Oh.
peeking through the blinds. Can we
Oh, yeah.
make that an overlay?
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah. Kimar also not in this episode. But welcome everybody to another episode of the Hold and Maneuver podcast. This episode is going to be about the 7th episode of The Acolyte, which is called Choice. And this week we have two special guests joining us with Adam Daniel and
Hello.
Ralph Apel. Welcome.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Thanks for having us. Well, me. I can't speak for Ralph, but
I'm gonna say I'm okay. I've been very, very busy lately. Mark knows why.
All right.
Today was a day. Today's one of those days. Yeah. It's good. It's good. But it's also like very, very, very draining. It feels like I watched this episode years ago.
Oh, yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, I watched it today.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to.
I literally finished it 17 minutes ago.
oh wow,
Yeah.
I finished it. I've been so busy that I just kind of in preparation. I was just like, well, I'm going to get the day off of work, so I'm just going to binge the whole series up until today. So I watched the whole thing in the last like 24 hours.
Oh well.
Which is, it's
How'd
fresh.
that go?
It's all fresh.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I honestly like just doing it like that. This story has moved so quickly. It seems
Yeah.
the pacing of the show is a lot different than a lot of other Star Wars shows that have been on Disney. As far as I can tell, the pacing of everything is just you're getting the setup and the finish almost. It feels like not immediate, but it feels very quick, and I think it's part of just that, like the TikTok generation and the attention span thing, and the way writers are into work now, that we're getting a pace.
I feel like they are the core demographic, not us. Which is fine because I'm still enjoying it. It makes me feel like I'm a cool kid.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. This series has been a lot of fun to watch, and the stories and the storyline has been pretty cool. Especially just seeing it in the last 24 hours or so. It's been great.
Nice. Because I was gonna ask you that, like, because I wondered how this show, I guess, like on a binge model, feels as different from like watching it week to week. Because it seems like this one seems like the rare case so far for like all of the Disney Plus Star Wars related shows that might play better, like just watching it all through like in one sitting, maybe.
Yeah, I think that maybe the advantage is that because it is a quicker pace, it's easier to follow in this in this situation. I think watching it week to week, obviously I don't know how it would have been watching it week to week, but I would guess for myself watching it week to week with the pacing, I would have been the anticipation would have been bigger. For the next episode, and I think that's where I would have been with it, but there was because it moved so fast. It honestly felt like watching a movie, just with like the previews of the previous episode and stuff prior in between. Because I don't skip it. I like because you miss stuff sometimes, and they show the stuff that's kind of important. So I just watched it right through.
Nice.
Before we miss the main point of this episode, I got a question for you guys.
What's that?
Do you know the Jedi Order doesn't trust prophecies? Do you know why they don't?
I couldn't even render a guess.
Because they're a non-profit organization.
that.
I'm so glad I didn't read that one. I think of all the ones that you had me ask if I wanted to read, I think that might be the one I'm most glad I said that to. I was like, a little bit of a clunker.
Yeah.
So Adam, now you're like in with the rest of us. You have to wait the week.
Oh yeah.
Are you excited, or are you like, oh man, like
I'm
get right in there?
I'm excited. I think that I've honestly enjoyed this show more than I've enjoyed any other Disney Plus show, to be honest. Like if we're like it's just been that much fun for me. And to have to wait is kind of it's fine. I'm excited for next week and excited to see, because this was like I think this episode it was great to see like that other side of, I don't remember the episode it was that they showed the witches side.
3.
So
Yeah,
episode
episode
3,
3 or
to
something like that.
get this side of it was just really, to get that's the way they told the story was great. Just like
The rest of us have been waiting.
yeah. It was pretty cool.
And Mike's like, when do I see Kilnaka with a lightsaber? I want to see Kilnaka.
I'm still
with a lightsaber.
disappointed by that.
I love the fighting. I love the fighting without the lightsabers. I think it's great. I mean, and having Carrie-Anne Moss in the episodes without using a lightsaber is also touching. I think that hits our generation.
Has she turned hers on yet? I don't even remember.
I think she did. I think she might have. I don't like watching them all together like that. I don't remember exactly, but I think she might have turned it on once.
Nice. You know who else?
The reason why I'm disappointed by the Kelnaka stuff is I wanted this Wookiee to be like a badass, and they've kind of not done that.
Yeah,
easily killed. His mind's been taken over. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's done some cool things, but I just wanted him to be more of a badass.
Okay, we got one more episode.
He slammed that dude up against the wall.
He did. He did decimate Torbin very easily.
Yeah.
You know who else was Carrie-Anne Moss in this episode? Sol, when he picked it up and put it in his case.
Carrying Moss.
Yeah.
You got two good jokes.
Yeah.
We went for 3 last week. No, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Last week.
Yeah, we just read all 3 of them off that we had for the options. But yeah, I want to say that was a good joke. but that's kind of the point.
I wouldn't say that was a joke.
Yeah.
It was fine. I think I liked it. I think I may have liked it more than the other one. I'm not sure. They're all pretty bad.
That's true. Oh yeah, Indara did ignite her saber in the first episode. Like eventually when she was fighting May. Yeah. So like this entire episode was just entirely flashback. It didn't even have like a preamble where like Saul was like, "So, 16 years ago."
Yeah.
Is that how they did it in episode 3? I think we opened on the tree in that episode.
Yeah, we did.
But I don't remember if it then went back, or if that was like just all flashback in that one too.
I don't remember. I do like the way the show is structured in sort of a ring theory kind of way, where you follow May and Osha, and then in the middle they kind of swap positions with Chimera and Saul, and then you have the 2 flashbacks on sort of either side. It would make sense to have a 9th episode if we're doing it fully, because there's 2 episodes before the first flashback.
Yeah,
and there's only one after this flashback. So
I think that's why some people are thinking this episode, like this flashback episode, was going to be last week, so that it would have been like they're kind of symmetrical mirror.
Right.
I guess if you really count the premiere as like, even though it was 2 episodes.
Well, they dropped them as 2 episodes, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
I was going to say otherwise, I guess it could fit that way, but it was
outside of naked Manny Jacinto last week. What did we gain? Could we have done this episode last week and saved naked Manny for this week?
No, I think last week's episode. I mean, first of all, it probably worked for Adam because Adam got the 2 action episodes like back to back. So for us, we got Manny like dropping down, doing the force push, and then it going to black, Then we had to wait a week to see the lightsaber battle.
Right.
So I think for Adam, it's probably a nice way because it's like really heavy action.
Good
in that
good break.
episode. So it's probably nice to decompress. The following week, we got to learn more about Manny's or Chimere's motivations, how he was able to sway May in the first place by now using his sort of mind tricks or whatever he's doing on Osha. He's definitely luring her in. So it was nice to see. I would have had to have waited 2 weeks to get more into that because coming off that episode 5 where it's like, holy cow, this dude is nuts and this dude is awesome. And like coming off that, you're going to want to see more, which is what we got in more ways than one. So it was, I think it served better as a follow-up to that episode because you want to keep that momentum going. Once you kind of like were able to breathe a little bit and saw Sol talking to May while she's on the bed, and Chimere talking to Osha, it's like, okay, now we know pretty much everything we need to know in the present. Let's tie up some loose ends in the past before we get into all of these stories like converging in the final episode. So I think the layout was fine. I think I really enjoyed it. I'm a Green Lantern fan, and anytime that there's like this big crossover, huge battle across the DC universe that involves Green Lantern books, where you're like buying like 3 issues a month, and it's a 2-month long nonstop battle fest. Usually the issue of Green Lantern that comes the month after that big event ends, it's usually just like 5 Green Lanterns sitting on a comet somewhere, drinking beers, just talking about old times. So it's kind of nice to have a little like decompression and kind of a, after this thing that was just like, probably for me, it's hard to say, but it's up there with the top tier lightsaber battles that we've seen in all of Star Wars. So it's nice to kind of be like, well, how are you going to top that? You're not. So let's take a breather. Let's just hear what these guys have to say, hear what their philosophies are, let them talk to these girls. Let's now get the final wrap up of that backstory. And just now, I can't even imagine like if they're going to try to top that lightsaber battle from episode 5, I can't even imagine what they have planned for the finale. Yeah.
I'm excited to see where it goes after this episode, with just seeing all the flashbacks, the whole episode, like we said, was a flashback. So seeing the true story behind everything, and not just like, because everything was surface. It was like it was like a painting, and they were just like painting all these little things all over the place, and then you get to see it all come to fruition in the like him holding. I'm probably getting too far ahead, but just him holding up the two sides and like making the decision, the choice to like let one just like use his force to solely save one girl, and that was his secret, and to live with that for that long. Just like,
I think
really,
that's what's interesting. I think that's what's interesting about this side of it. When we saw the first half, we didn't know everything fully, so we're like, did the Jedi kill all those witches? We still don't know who caught May. I have theories, but it's one of those things where we're like, man, the Jedi are evil. Watch, the Jedi are going to be evil. Watch, the witches are going to be evil. Everybody's going to be evil. But by the time you actually watch this episode, everybody has good intentions.
Yep.
Osha's mom is like, I was going to let her go.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have to come in here. Sol was like, I want to make sure these girls are safe. That's my only thing that I want to do. Torbin just wanted to get back to Coruscant, but he kind of he messed up. But it's one of those things where it just shows you how, they're good. Could be people on both sides with good intentions, but without the communication there, it just like everything just gets messed up. Like everybody everybody does the wrong thing while trying to do the right thing. So it's
like their mom says something along that lines too. Like she says, like your noble intentions are eventually going to like lead to like the I don't remember like the exact quote, but like your noble intentions are eventually going to lead to like the destruction.
Yeah.
Which
she basically was foreseeing the future. That's
Yeah.
what she was doing. What are we like? It's like 200 years or something like that in the past, isn't it? Something like that.
100 years before
Yeah.
the Empire.
Yeah. So it's a long, long, long time ago.
So it's like 85 years before Phantom Menace.
Wow.
Because you have
I
like
think-
the 20 years of Anakin or 10 years of Anakin
Mhm.
growing up, like, you know, because the Empire started in Revenge of the Sith. And so episode 1 was what, 20 years before that? Something like that?
It's like looks like it's 132 years before
Wow.
Phantom Menace.
Yeah, according to previous guest Dakota's time saber that he made that goes like all the way from like the beginning to the end there. But yeah, like I liked that we got a little guest star in action from Titus Welliver in this episode.
From Titus.
Yeah, we had the smoke monster in this episode.
Oh, right.
Titus Welliver.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did. That went right over my
Well,
head.
I love talking about Lost. I'm so excited to keep.
Yeah,
My life is so inundated with Lost right now. It's insane. But yeah, you know, it didn't even occur to me when she turned into a witch. She reminded me of the twins in Matrix. Reloaded.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah, it
remember that.
looked familiar. I couldn't pinpoint it, but that's exactly what it was to me. Now that you say it out loud and I hear it, that's very Matrix-y kind of things going on, even with Carrie-Anne Moss being in the series too.
The Force Fu.
Well, I mean, during her fight scene in the first episode, Michael Abels, the composer, definitely adds some of those brass hits from the Matrix during her fight.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They really wanted you to conjure up her role as Trinity. Which I
totally
appreciate.
felt it. I felt it. Yeah, that was meant for us. I don't know how popular the Matrix is with kids nowadays, but the movie is like 25 years old.
Maybe this will be their gateway.
Hopefully, because I love the whole series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I like the third one too. I think it's really good. I think it's underrated. Oh, and the fourth one. I enjoyed the fourth one.
I still haven't
Me
seen
too.
the fourth one. I need to watch that one still.
There's the
It's like
action
right
is
over
a little
there,
more
and I need to watch
shaky
this.
cam. Yeah, give it a shot.
really?
You might really like it, dude. I feel like I read one of your tweets today talking about the new Florence Pugh, Andrew Garfield movie, and like, if that trailer gets you, I feel like you're like a hopeless romantic or something. I think the themes in Matrix Reloaded, is that what it? No, Matrix.
Oh, Resurrections.
Resurrections. I think you'll very much enjoy it. It's very much a Neo and Trinity like love story.
Nice.
Really good. I thought it was great. In fact, I might watch it again. I haven't seen it since it came out.
It is like literally sitting right over there. I just haven't watched
Grab it.
No better time than now.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Well, in like an hour from now.
Quick segue from that. They need, and since we talked about Lost really briefly, they need to put Speed Racer on 4K as quickly as possible because it's still
driving me
not
nuts.
on 4K, and it needs to be right now.
Wow, that
If there's
movie's
any
great.
movie that needs a 4K release, it's that.
Yeah.
That would have been
I love
awesome in
Speed Racer.
like a 3D Blu-ray too. But I'll take a 4K one. That's fine.
I feel like that's just to render that into 4K seems very massive. I mean, all these renderings into 4K are massive, but that movie seems like it would be a haul to make into 4K, to render it into 4K.
Yeah.
But
they
They have to do it.
it's so
Yeah, they
good.
have
The other thing I liked in this episode too, like when they bring up the witches there too, is that like Torbin straight up calls them the Night Sisters. So it's that's kind of a good like marker there to know like they already like knew of kind of like the Night Sisters back at that point, and like not to just like assume like like they don't show up until later on down the line there a bit. But I like how like we have seen this like in a few different ways too, like how like the same way like in our world, how there's all these different interpretations of like different religions people have that are all very similar, or like have a very similar like center to them, whereas like in this it's kind of like the same thing with like the witches here have like the thread, and then the Jedi have the Force, and then like the Night Sisters have magic with K. So it's interesting how it's like basically all
like
the
Muzak.
same thing, but just like but like this episode and the Destiny episode, they're all just from, and like Obi-Wan would say, from a certain point of view, they're all like
right.
And it just
even
appropriately.
the thing is, like, I like that even in like within the Jedi, there are different sort of factions. Qui-Gon was a devotee of the living Force. He put his stock in like midichlorians, whereas even I really love Qui-Gon. Where like Obi-Wan thinks of it more as a mystical energy field, even though he uses Padawan.
Yeah.
I think Qui-Gon liked that Obi-Wan was kind of headstrong and sort of, wasn't by the book, was willing to learn, was willing to like, so it's funny how the episode 1, 2, 3 and this show are really showing that the Jedi is just an organized religion. It may feel like it's better than others, even though I think every religion should be valid. And I'd never understood how wars could be started over religion. Like, it feels like it goes against what religion tries to
100%.
teach.
Oh, absolutely.
And so for Star Wars, I mean, for people who get mad at this show for whatever reason, I don't think anybody's picking up the subtlety of organized religion is fine until you take it too far and use it as a weapon. Because the Jedi in this episode, you see them, they still come in unannounced to the witches, and they say, we're allowed to do this because we're backed by the Senate and it's part of the mandate, and you should know that the Jedi are able to come in and check children. And it's like, okay, it doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
You're allowed to do something in the name of religion doesn't make it right. I mean, since the beginning, the Jedi are supposed to be keepers of the peace, and coming in unannounced is not keeping the peace.
Yeah, it's not very peaceful. I mean,
even though Sol has the motive, seems like they have the right motivation of like, protecting these
the child.
girls, but who says they're in trouble?
They're in trouble with the Jedi lore. And
the only reason why he thinks they're in trouble and thinks they're getting hurt is because he snuck in and was spying on them.
And just happened to see all the worst times to see.
Yeah, he doesn't know what's going on fully. He's just making assumptions.
And what's crazy is he later becomes the trainer of younglings.
Yeah.
Which is giving the exact same kind of lessons that he was giving to the younglings is exactly what Anaseo was giving to Osha and May. And it's just like, you guys need to like stop speculating on what your religion should be doing. Just do what's right.
Yeah.
Ask about what this this initiation thing is, this ascension. Ask what that is. Don't assume.
Yeah.
Because like May's also like explaining it from like only what she's been heard of it, and she very clearly doesn't like know the entire like thing to it yet. So like when she explains what
she
it
didn't
is,
get to finish.
Yeah, it sounds worse than it is from the way she's. Oh, you gotta be sacrificed to do it. He's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you guys are dads. You guys know how kids will say something and then you have to like correct them and say, well, actually it's this. Yeah. So like taking the word of a kid, I mean, kids should be listened to like 100%, but you know, you might
You
want
have to understand, like, yeah. They see something and they'll repeat it. They don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
They're just repeating what you said.
And fun fact, kids, sometimes adults say stuff and they don't know what they're saying either.
All
Like
the time.
90% of the time, actually.
Yeah.
But we're
actually,
bigger,
yeah,
so you
most
have
of
to
the
listen to
time.
us.
Yeah.
It's an awful lot. Nobody knows
Yeah.
anything really. We're all just
And that's like
kind of
another thing with this show is like, you know, who's right, May Osha or Sol or Chimere. Like everybody has ideals.
Yeah.
Who's to say who's right? So
I just like the bad guy story all the time though, because they come like good guy stories they're all pretty typical in the same good guy stories, but the bad guy has like something traumatic happen to them, or they just like make a wrong turn and a bad decision one day, and it leads them to this path of destruction or whatever they do as bad people. But they're always the more interesting characters to me. So,
yeah.
I like that, guys.
They don't hide their flaws.
One of the things I thought was interesting there too, like after Torbin and Sol like go into like the witch's castle or old, like that's like an old mining thing.
The witch's castle.
Yeah, and their mom, you know, turns into Titus Welliver and like starts, which I'm assuming she's just basically because they were doing that thing in the Destiny episode where like she like basically was trying to like pass down whatever to May and Osha, and it seemed like in that moment there I don't know if she was trying to. Did it seem like she was trying to possess one of them again, or did it seem like she was trying to go into May to help her? Because it seemed like that it was like the black
when the mom gets stabbed.
Yeah, like because at that same time as she's like, you know, turning into like, you know, the smoke, like, and like Sol shanks her. Qui-Gon.
Did he mean to shank her, or was it an accidental shanking? That's what I couldn't figure out.
I'm pretty sure he meant to do it. Yeah, he like
meant to do it.
very definitively.
Yeah,
he was very deliberate. I think he was trying to save May. He was trying to save the child. Is what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
Although he didn't know it was.
He thought it was Osha.
He thought it was Osha.
Oh yeah.
Dude, like you're doubly wrong on this, dude.
Yeah.
So for everybody complaining that how could you not know that was Osha or May in the previous episode? He was already doing that 16 years ago.
Still don't know.
Yeah.
I think he knew. I think he knew when he brought her aboard the ship. I think he knew.
Yeah.
And was just playing along.
That's true.
I was leaning that way while watching it as well. To be honest, I was leaning that way. That
it was hard to believe that he had no clue. It was just like, how could you not?
Because he fought May. He fought May on the planet outside Manny Jacinto's 7-Eleven. Like he fought her down there without using his lightsaber. So it's like if he does recognize that it's her, he'll be able to defend himself fairly quickly. Like, you know, he did pretty good until she threw all that sand in their eyes.
Pocket sand.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and then I like how he like immediately regrets that decision. And then, like, as he's fighting their other mom, he's just like taking it and letting himself get like elbowed in the face and punched. And he's like, "Well, I'm not going to use my lightsaber. And I'll say positively, absolutely, 100% need to turn it on."
Yeah,
so, I like how you.
Yeah, because these Jedi, I don't know how much protecting the peace they're doing throughout the galaxy at this point, but these guys were just sent for like a couple weeks or a week to go like collect moss and do all that stuff. It's like
why is there life on this planet when it should be like all dead and everything?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like dude's like itching to get into a fight. He's like looking for a reason to use his lightsaber. It's a little that was shady. When he killed her, that was shady.
Yeah. Yeah, it made him look pretty bad.
Which is interesting too, because I think like most people like throughout up to this point have probably been mostly leaning on like Sol's, like, I don't know if like a side, but like Sol's probably the only one that, you know,
he's the good guy.
He's the good guy.
He's the balance.
So I have a question. We
Oh, yeah.
ended episode 6 with Saul talking to May and saying, "I'm finally going to tell you what happened," when she's the one that saw it. Does he still think that he was protecting Osha in that moment? Because he's May's laying on the table at the end of episode 6, and he's like, "I'm going to tell you what really happened," and then it cuts to Osha putting on the helmet, and so where we left off, and then now we get the story, and so May knows what he did.
Yeah, I mean, I think that she does. I think that's why she wants. That's her purpose, isn't it? To like either kill them or like get them to go in front of the council.
She's supposed to kill him without a weapon, essentially.
Yeah. But that's her motivation. I think is to expose what she knows, because from what I gather, the Jedi have told a certain story to paint themselves in a better light over the past 16 years about what happened. And she knows the truth, because her master told her.
Although I do like in this that he was like ready to basically, be like, "Oh, I effed up. I need to go tell the council and like need to, have
and then
penance
the political
for
side
whatever."
comes out.
Yeah, and then Carrie-Anne Moss is like, "Actually, you just did all of this stuff, and all of that went down." And then you're going to also take yourself out of the equation for what you just told her that you were going to do to, like, basically, like, help her achieve her dream. And then she just lost all that stuff. So then you go to, then, I guess she could have just got paired with, like, another Jedi, I guess. Or, but.
Yeah, maybe.
But,
We'll never know.
Yeah, I know. But, like, that was the other theory that people have been talking about, is, like, maybe to kill a Jedi just means that like Saul like falls from being a Jedi and goes to the dark side.
I mean, I'm curious to see if she actually is able to do it.
Yeah.
Take out Saul without a weapon.
Well, I was theorizing that maybe it isn't like killing him. It's he either joins Khmer or, as we now see, turns himself in, and that's the death. He's no longer a Jedi.
Yeah,
right.
And that may be the whole purpose of it anyway.
What I've had a theory since the beginning where I feel like the reason why he's saying to go kill a Jedi without a weapon is so that a Jedi kills her, an unarmed civilian, and that it like hits headlines across the galaxy.
Jedi.
That was my whole thing, is like she gets killed. Did you hear about the Jedi that killed an unarmed person? That's crazy. So he's like using May and Osha to just like.
That's why they never touch their lightsabers, and she's so desperate for him to get him to.
Yeah.
I like that theory, though. That's a good one too. Yeah. See, these are fun to just discuss and figure out.
Right. Yeah.
Well, there's that one, I think, after watching the Destiny episode, like the other side of like the events in this, where I thought maybe that like Osha and May were like maybe meant to be like one consciousness or something, and they were like, well,
they said it in
one,
this.
one light, and I was like,
split in half.
I was like, oh, they said the thing that I was thinking in this episode, like just like Torbin just straight up said my theory.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe since they said it out loud, maybe that means that's not what it is, because maybe they want to. Although people also thought like that it was maybe too obvious that like Hemar was the Darth Bortles, but he was. But I was still cool with that. I did it. I pulled it off effectively. But I think that would be interesting too, or it's like like an explanation for like the Force dyad thing, because Leslie Headland had also like said that they very specifically played like the Kylo Ren theme at the end of that was 5, I think it was, right?
Yeah, it's 5.
I think it was in this one too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it showed up in this one as well.
Yeah,
and I want to say it showed up while Konaka was fighting.
Yeah, so do you think like they're like associating maybe like that with like whatever like that like black smoke possession magic stuff.
Look at the eyes change. Their eyes go black when they're possessed, and then you always have the Sith eyes in pictures. Like when they talk about Darth Jar Jar and stuff, they look at his eyes. They're Sith eyes and stuff. Like it's possible that that's the possession.
Yeah, I'd buy into that. Why not? And I mean, it's black eyes. It's
Black eyes.
It's a possession. Like I mean, it's not anything. We've seen it's in other possession kind of resources that we could find in other films and stuff. Like it's kind of like a typical possession thing. That's just kind of what I saw of it. I didn't really think too much of it other than that.
Yeah, and like I've seen some others like saying that they like Collins was like that maybe this is kind of like the origin of like the Knights of Ren possibly, and that like Kimar is like the first one. Ralph, are you thinking that like the person who saved May there is like somehow connected to Kimar?
Is it him?
It doesn't seem, well, it seems like he would.
Yeah, my theory as far as who saves May from the wreckage, from the bridge, I'm thinking it's Coral, the mom.
Oh, okay.
And I'm thinking she may have something to do with all this. I think we may. Yeah. I'm theorizing that we get some sort of reveal because we didn't see what happened to her. She disappeared in a cloud of smoke.
We didn't confirm.
I feel like she's important to the story. Whereas the one mother was like, "I'll allow you to do this choice that you've made." The other mom was clearly like, Coral was like, "Come with me, grab a weapon, go." Like she essentially was like taking her along, showing her how to lead an army. And I think that I'm going to say that she's the one that saved May. And I don't know, maybe possibly she's the master of Chimera or not. I don't know. But I feel like we've seen the fate of Anissa.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen the fate of the other one. And I feel like we're going to end this last episode with May, Osha, Sol, Chimera, and Coral, and Venestra, who's on the path,
right?
Who's tailing the Jedi ship. So
yeah, well, and that's the other thing people that I've seen kind of saying is like thinking that maybe like Sol ultimately gets blamed for what happened on Kafar there, like that he went like basically went rogue, like they find out what happened with like what we just saw in this episode, and that they think that that like he somehow like was trying to like cover it up and like killed all these people there, and then like pieced the F out, but I don't know, that could be like an interesting thing too, and that could also be like killing a Jedi that way too. And plus he didn't really kind of help himself because of like turning off the comm and then like immediately like leaving with May/Osha just before they showed up there too. So that'll kind of be interesting to see what they do with that in that last episode, with like how all of that will kind of wrap back around into itself there. But because I am wondering like how, because it seems like Kimar is connected to that whole situation somehow, because of like how he knows, or at least is implying that he knows like some of like what's going on with like Sol and everyone else there. I feel like none of these guys can make it out of a fight with Chimera, because again, as far as the Jedi know, officially the Sith have been dead for millennia. I know that Chimera said that
you'd call me a Sith.
You'd call me a Sith, but he's like semantics. So I'm curious. That's the thing I'm most curious about, because Adam, I don't know if you know this, but as people are watching it on a weekly basis, there was one point where people were up in arms because Ki-Adi-Mundi was there on the show, and he's the one that said the Sith have been dead for a millennia in episode 1. And they're like, well, how could that be? How could there be a Sith here? And Ki-Adi-Mundi knows about it. Well, nobody's told anybody about Chimere yet. The only person that knows about Chimere are Osha, May, and Sol at this point.
Yeah.
And so it's like if they don't make it out of this, Ki-Adi-Mundi will never know that there was this guy with a red lightsaber. Yeah. So what's great is it sets up the stakes for this last episode. Yep. Because it's like, I don't know if they're going to make it out alive, because otherwise they might go report it to the Jedi, or it's another thing they just sweep under the rug and ignore, much like they did in episode 1. Because that line of Ki-Adi-Mundi, the Sith have been dead for a millennia, is like almost like we're not talking about this, right? Like this whole Sith thing is it's a myth. Like they're so up their own butts that they're just like Sith, Schmith, whatever. Yeah. Just
yeah. They're non-existent at this point. Like, why are we even mentioning them?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm really curious to see who knows what by the end of the next episode, because I don't think there's been a season 2 confirmed. So I feel like they probably, unless they're like new, like way ahead of time, like you're going to get at least 2 seasons, so you can end on a cliffhanger, do whatever you need to do. But if not, then they're going to have to like wrap up this story and leave it in a position where it's like it still makes sense with episode 1. I don't know if you saw like the Dark Crystal show. So Dark Crystal, they had planned on doing another season, but it got canceled. Luckily enough, they had enough foresight to where it left off would jump into the 1982 movie. Like you can fill in the gaps and be like, okay, this is it was a nice place to end the story, but also if they were to do another season, build off of it. So I'm hoping there's some sort of closure, because if this doesn't get picked up for a second season, we're going to get stuck with just this story. And I hope it goes in with the
But that's kind of what happened with Willow, other than the fact that it's not even on Disney Plus anymore.
Right.
But
you're going to see more of that happening, unfortunately.
And so Harold mentions the bad writing. There's no tension. I disagree. Hardly disagree. It doesn't. Well. You don't need, like you said, no one's kidnapped or in prisons, etc. Like essentially, May kidnapped Saul.
Yeah.
Like she went with him without him knowing. So there is tension. Like if you don't find tension in Chimere's relationship with Osha now, like the dude is menacing. He's menacing. That's tension. Like he's so confident in his abilities that he's able to strip down without any clothes, armor, without his helmet, without his gauntlet, without his lightsaber, and leave him where Osha can get to him. Like that's how confident he is in his power. And if you don't think if you think there's no tension there, I think there's plenty of tension. And I don't think it's bad writing at all. In fact, I think it's some of the better Star Wars writing. I've said this on my show that I think Andor is the best show. I think Acolyte is the best Star Wars show. And that's because Acolyte tackles things that you can only do in Star Wars with Jedi, lightsabers, Sith, all of this stuff. I think Andor, you can take all the characters in Andor and set it in a World War II Earth setting as a very good spy movie, as a very good heist movie, and a very good prison break movie. Like those can exist outside of Star Wars. They don't need laser guns. They don't need, it could be, the Allies versus the Nazis. It's the rebels versus the Empire. So for me, this show, I think from a writing standpoint, blows every season of Mandalorian out of the water. This is a show that was set up to be serialized, much like the Flash Gordon serials that George Lucas watched and based Star Wars off of. And what they have done is is they've come up with a story, and they have fleshed it out and constructed it in such a way that it's a mystery show, but it also shows some cool world building and history of the Star Wars universe, which we haven't seen in live action. We've seen some in Rebels and Clone Wars, but for a live action series like Mandalorian, it's like an episode of the week. They walk into a cave, fight a monster, get out of the cave.
Mhm.
They have a broken ship. They go to Jawas. The Jawas say, "Go get this egg." They go get the egg, and then they fix their ship. Like, it's not, the writing in Mandalorian is paper thin. This has a lot of character stuff. I think Saul is incredibly interesting. Saul is awesome, but at the same time, I don't know if he's a good guy. He's trying
I
to
don't
be.
think he knows.
Yeah. And to Adam talking about how like now like villains are the coolest things, and you get like they're the most interesting because you kind of, a bad guy is going to be a bad guy. It's going to be a guy with a red lightsaber and wearing a black cloaks and stuff, but it's what's under the mask. What is driving that character? And that's what's interesting. You watch a movie like Black Panther, and Michael B. Jordan's character, I think, is one of the best written villains in Marvel, because what he's saying isn't wrong.
Right.
Right.
And what Chimera is saying in this isn't wrong. It's good storytelling. It's great characters. That's tension. And it's one of those things. And what I like is Leslie Headland and company are taking themes that were in episode 1, 2, and 3 and sort of fleshing them out a little bit more in this, as far as going in and taking kids, as far as the high and mighty Jedi as an organized religion, like thinking they're on top of the world and they're infallible because they're on the side with the Senate. And I kind of believe in a separation of church and state. I don't think that they should have full power. And it's one of those things where it's like, this is good writing. It's all wrapped in this sort of, I feel like the Acolyte is like a YA novel. It's meant for the TikTok generation. It's not meant for four bearded dudes with glasses on the internet. But
too bad we don't have any of those on this episode.
I know.
Like, we're getting more out of it because we've lived our lives and we watch the news and we know social things going on. And any good like sci-fi can like take social things and inject it into the story. And what I like about it is it is wrapped around this sort of TikTok generation. It's essentially the Willow show that Disney Plus scrapped. It's essentially that, but in Star Wars. And it's fun because I get sort of these adult themes that aren't really slamming me over the head, but also it's wrapped in a really fun action adventure where we get to see like 7 Jedi fight one dude with a helmet and a lightsaber, and the one dude is like insanely good. Just, so everything about it for me is like, great. I'm getting this stuff as an adult and I'm enjoying this kid's show. And it's the best of both. It's the best of both worlds. George Lucas said Star Wars was an allegory for the Vietnam War. Obviously, there's stuff in there with World War II, especially with the way the Empire dresses. And it's when I was a kid, I'm like, look at the robot, awesome. R2's my favorite. I love Luke Skywalker. And then you become a teen. You're like, oh man, Han Solo is so cool. He's such a badass. And then you watch and you're like, oh, this political stuff is bad. It's one of those things where I feel like I like that somehow Leslie Headland is balancing this sort of action-y fable of twins. It feels very biblical, this story. But at the same time, we get laser swords. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. So I can't say enough about the show. I think it's great.
Yep. I 100% agree with that. I can't disagree with anything you just said, to be honest. It's been the writing for me, like I said earlier, is it's meant for the TikTok generation where it advances, where the story gets advanced, but the action and the heart of it isn't getting forgotten in the process of it. And I think that's where a lot of shows outside of like Star Wars and just talking about general shows where they lose it with writing and in the room is because they're just basing things on like we have to hit them and then a lull and hit them, and it's like it doesn't need to. There's a way to do it, and I think that this show has kind of given us a path in a way to work within the restraints, so to speak, of having to slam people over the head with stuff constantly.
Yeah.
I think one thing I'm digging
this real quick.
Okay.
Harold says you think this show's better than Mando. It's a different flavor. It's written different. I prefer a serialized drama. I'm a big fan of the show Lost. We've talked too much about no more too much Lost in my life. But I do appreciate like the long form story. I think Andor is some of the best writing I've seen on television. The 3 separate episode or 3 story arcs are amazing. Mando is fun. Mando is cool. But the character of Din Djarin is a blank slate, essentially. He's kind of someone who is traveling the galaxy, almost like Forrest Gump. He's like kind of getting involved with all of these things that are happening around him. And he does go in, but his main thing is his main motivation now is just protect the child. So Mando, it's a different flavor. And that's what I like about Star Wars and the Disney era of Star Wars is Mando, Andor, and Acolyte are completely 3 different flavors of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it gives everybody variety. So if you don't like the Acolyte, that's fine, because I can go watch Andor. I can go watch Obi-Wan, the series I thought was pretty okay. There's so many different flavors. I'm not a huge fan of the animated series. I still haven't watched like Bad Batch season 2 and 3 or Visions, but I'm so glad that we now have a different place for me to go if I don't want to watch those things. Growing up as a kid, I was born the same year Star Wars came out. So I'm, 47 years old. Also had were the 3 movies and 2 Ewok movies for the majority of my life. And then when episode 1 came out, I was like, oh, finally something new. And I wasn't keen on episode 1 to begin with. I've come around on that. But now there's so much Star Wars out there that I don't even have time to watch it all. But if there's something I don't like, I'll just turn it off and put on Solo, the Star Wars story, because I love that.
Yes.
I love that movie too.
Yeah,
I think all 4 of us like Solo a lot, so this is a pro Solo podcast.
Yeah.
People have had expectations of that movie, and I just think they didn't take it for what it was, and it was just a fun movie, which is meant to be fun, and I think that it also came with a little like they changed directors in the middle of it. Yeah. So
then they forced the release upon us too soon.
But if you want to hear Ralph
things
talk more about Solo, at least on this podcast, Ralph joined us for a whole episode about Solo. I don't even remember how many back, but it was a while ago. But
make Solo 2 happen 100%.
Yes. The other thing I did really like about this episode too, and in this season so far too, is that I've liked the we've kind of talked about it, like the like lightsaber choreography that they've been doing in this. It's kind of like a good amalgamation of both like what Nick Gillard did for like the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
And then I don't recall who did the fight choreography for the sequel trilogy, but it's kind of like a good meshing of like both of those styles. And then I've also liked in more recent like Star Wars how they're like using the practical lighting lightsabers when they're doing those on set, because I just like the cinematic.
I have a gripe. I have one gripe about that, and it was explained on New Rockstars how this could be okay. But with the practical lit lightsabers, the hilts are so fat. They're so big around.
Yeah, I thought about that when Kel.
It's like they're really big.
Hilt.
But I think it was New Rockstars who said, "Well, these are earlier. This is an earlier technology from 100 years ago, so they might have had to use bigger because, like, iPhones, they started out pretty chunky and fat, and now they're thin. Same with MacBooks. Now they're trying to do like the thinnest MacBook. So maybe the technology is caught up, in the prequel era and the classic trilogy era, where they're like, okay, we could streamline this and make it, better. So I'm hoping I'm choosing in my head to make that canon. I agree with but it is nice seeing the sort of the practical lighting on like the faces and stuff.
Right.
I remember when Lucas did that for episode 2 with the Anakin and Dooku fight in the dark.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They had like those lightsabers, when they use those, were connected to wires. Like there's big fat cables. And so they can really only like do small motions just to get that sort of lighting effect.
Yeah.
But I do like it. Hopefully they can start streamlining it so we get back to the narrower like
Obi and
well, I mean, if you look at the original trilogy there, Lucas even himself said he has 3 different fighting styles. They had the 2-handed saber fighting, and then they kind of went to a mix, and then it kind of went to
like
in
based
the
on
history
like broadswords and
right. So it's in the history that the sabers change.
Yeah, and then he said also like Luke was kind of new, and he wasn't able to use the Force as strongly when he fought like Vader. So he did a very 2-handed style, whereas Vader was in control of the Force and he was able to use like one hand. And then when he went over to the prequels, it probably just looked cool. So he came up with a thing saying these guys are in tune with the Force. A heavy light, like if I can lift an X-wing out of a swamp,
right,
I can wield this object fairly easily, you know. But for sort of a layperson, and Luke had very minimal lightsaber training, other than on that we saw where it was on the Millennium Falcon. It could be very heavy for him to be able to do that. Yeah. So which shows you how Chimere is so in tune with the Force. He's able to throw his lightsaber, make it go around corners, and then catch it again while still ignited.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so, he's a pretty cool bad guy.
do some Jedi kebabs dagger with it. Double pull people onto one. Yeah, that was crazy stuff. Torbin did kind of like a little bit of like the Anakin Obi-Wan like twirls.
Yeah, great.
I liked that.
I'm still confused what Torbin did that was so bad that he needed to kill himself. Like that hasn't been fully explained.
I mean, he incited this whole thing.
Yeah,
like I feel like if he didn't go,
so that's like all their like that's everyone's take though. It's like he feels he caused it, so that's what he's been living with for 10 years.
Yeah, that's what I
didn't know if there was like I was thinking there might be like something else that was implanted by Anasea in her mind when she possessed him. Like,
I mean, that's also a possibility.
I think that's partially it too. Is like because now we saw it from his point of view, like when he was possessed, like with the whole thing going on there. But I don't even know if that was actually her doing that, because that might have been Coral, but like the way that she was projecting herself into his mind could have been to look like Anasea, maybe.
His motivations were wrong too. Weren't his motivations like
he wanted to go home?
He just wanted to go home. He didn't want to have anything to do with the mission. He complained about it. He's like, we've been here for weeks and we've got nothing. Can we just leave?
I guess the decision not to tell the council could also have weighed on him. But it felt like it wasn't explained enough for me personally. Not that it needed to be. Just like, because he quickly drinks that poison. 10-year vow. He hasn't talked to anyone. And then she shows up and is like, here you go. And he's like, I've been waiting for this. And just downs it dead.
Yep. He apparently just thought he was wrong for everything. Yeah. He caused what happened. He caused May, and he caused Osha to be separated. He caused the whole destruction. I think that he just felt that ultimate responsibility, and that maybe that's why he had that vow of silence as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, we won't really find out. I don't think. I think it was just going to be.
I think it's done.
I think that storyline is probably finished with his character being dead as well. But I think at the end of the day, I think it was his motivation that wasn't very Jedi-like, because you want to perform the missions, and you want to be a part of the Jedi lore. You want to be on the council. I think like the ultimate goal would be like to be on the Jedi Council, something that Anakin always wanted and never got. So I think the ultimate goal for a Jedi is to be on the council. And I think that his motivations were just all messed up. And I think that's what that's what I just believe that his motivations were all messed up, and he just didn't want to be there anymore. So he felt, and that's in that vein, that's what led to everything going on.
Well, with how good of a saber handler he was, I'm sure it's like, okay, I can wield this thing better than anyone, and I'm out here picking grass. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, he was young. He's young too. I mean, he was like a kid. He was a teenager or something, right? Like, he wasn't in his 20s or anything at that time. Was he still?
Yeah, I was gonna say that. That kind of goes back to like the conversation we had earlier. Where it's like he's a kid. He isn't making like super great decisions yet at that point in his life. Whereas like Carrie-Anne Moss is like his master, which is almost like being very motherly to him too, with the the way she's talking. So it's more. I was almost more like a mother son than like master Padawan. Which I mean, that's always kind of what it kind of was, because like Qui-Gon was very fatherly to Anakin. So
was Inara Sol's master? Did anyone think that as well?
Indar? I think they were like peers.
I know, it's something just like there was one line, I can't remember what it was, that made me like questions like, was she his master? Like, I don't know, I can't remember what the line was now.
I don't remember the line. I just read that comment and that was funny. I just got distracted.
Yeah.
I'd be the same way if I were just eating like basically frog legs or something or whatever.
Right.
I mean, Grogu
Kalnaka had that whole bird. So
yeah. But yeah, I think as we wrap up for this episode, is there anything that you, Adam and Ralph, would want to see? Like, what do you want to see happen in the finale for this season, and what do you think is going to happen in the finale for this season?
Man.
You know what I want to see?
God,
I want to be on the unknown planet where Osha and Chimere are. Right, they're there.
Yeah.
Since May is with Sol, she knows where the unknown planet is. They can show up there. Since Vernestra is on the tail of Sol's ship, she can end up there. And I want like a good, the bad, and the ugly like standoff where you have Sol and Mog, and you have Osha and Chimere and May and Sol.
Somehow Palpatine returns.
And they're just there. And I want everybody to put it out on the table. I want to see our first conversation where like, here's what's going on. I want May and Osha. I mean, are we going to end this thing with May and Osha coming together and just blasting everybody with like laser beam hands? Like, I don't know.
The power of this, that's what I'm most interested in, is the power of the twins.
Can they both turn into witches and meld into one?
Right.
Powers activate. Form of black
They're going to be like supersonic or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's something to the two of them together that's gonna, I think, will play out in the final episode.
Maybe we'll see the birth of Shmi.
I think with the line, the Sith have been dead or been extinct for millennia. Like, I think everybody's gone. I think if everybody gets wiped out in this show, then I'm gonna be like, okay, that's something.
Yeah, that's Rogue One. I mean, that's what made Rogue One so good, is that you knew the purpose of the mission wasn't going to lead them to death, and that's what made Rogue One one of my favorite stories. Was the fact that all the good guys did what they needed to do, and they died in the end doing what they were meant to do.
Having Mundi in this was very intentional. They knew what they were doing. It wasn't a mistake.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Everything I think is real precise and intentional. I think maybe by this time next week we'll all finally be able to say whether we like the Acolyte or not, because we will have seen the complete story of season 1. I for now am enjoying the ride as it's going. Yep. And I think I'm hoping, because I think I didn't enjoy the season finale of Ahsoka. I didn't enjoy the season finale of Mando 3. I did enjoy all of Andor. So I'm just like, I'm really hoping, like, this one feels like they had the story first and they split it over 8 episodes. And I feel like they really have an ending in mind. I don't mind if we get a tease for a season 2 because I wouldn't mind more of this.
Sure.
But man, the show has surprised me the entire way. There's no familiar characters in this show at all, with the exception of a cameo by Kiadamundi. So I don't know where anything is going. So it's kind of nice to be able to just watch a Star Wars that isn't, the one big flaw in Andor is, he's not going to die in the show.
Right.
Yep. He survives the show. So there's less stakes there, even though it's really good. There's really good writing in it. This show, it's like, I don't know. Like, I know people know Vanessa Rowe from the High Republic books, which I don't read. I know enough about her, but it's one of those things where it's like, this comes after those books. So nobody knows what's going to happen to her. So with the exception of Kiadamundi, anything can happen. Like, I know that dude's going to live, but he doesn't seem part of this story. So other than that, I think I'm like really interested to see if this is the beginning of the Knights of Ren. I want to see if these Jedi thumbs up. It's one of those things. I'm very happy. I have no idea where it's going to go, and that's exciting to me. It's really exciting to me.
I feel the same way about it. I don't have any clue. It's been a fun ride, and I hope I think we'll see May and Osha combine forces. I really do. I just think that there's so much power in the lore of Star Wars of twins and
our powers combined.
So it'll be interesting to see like what their powers combined are, because when they were younger, May was always like begging Osha to be like, come on, like, why are you like this? Why do you always, she says to her, why do you always run away? Why this? Now they'll have the confrontation. I think that to whatever way that it's going to go, the confrontation will be there, and it's been set up, I think, very nicely for their. I think that's it's going to center around their relationship. I think this last episode, just and even like even in the title, it's in Acolyte, the O comes together. Like it actually reminded me of Heroes a little bit, like the opening of Heroes. O and the O is kind of like glue. It would glow, with the eclipse, exactly. So it kind of reminded me a little bit of that too. I'm just looking forward to seeing the conclusion of and tying everything up, because I think, like you were saying, I think they did have a very good plan. And an overall arc for the season to complete the story in the 8th episode, and I wouldn't mind if it was a teaser, like if they were like, because maybe they were while filming, it was kind of like up in the air. Maybe there's going to be a season 2, we just don't know it yet. It hasn't been announced, so maybe they kind of know that sort of stuff too. So we'll see where it kind of goes, and I'd be okay with if it just ended and this was the story we got, because to me, I think watching it as one feels like a movie. So I wouldn't be disappointed in it if that's what it was, and that's what we got. I'm hoping for more, but I wouldn't be disappointed if we didn't get any more. I think just what they've done with it, and where it can go, and it just, even like anything can happen. Literally anything can happen. Like they could all die. Like they could all die, and that's what's exciting to me about it. Is like literally anything can happen, and it's been set up that way and built that way. And that's what's made this series so fun for me. Is that like you were saying, that the unknown of everything. We don't know these characters, and we don't really know anything about them coming into this. It was just, everything was brand new. And I just think they've done a really good job of spanning out their story and telling their story in a way which can captivate us in this generation.
Yeah, I agree with both things that both Ralph and Adam just said. So I'm not going to add anything to it.
I mean, either everyone's going to die, or the people who could say something are going to be taken out, and the rest are going to be like, we're not saying anything. We're going to
staying in the shadows.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what's great about it. It's like No, they could sweep everything under the rug and just be like, "Hello."
Well, that's why. That's
Saul,
why
Saul
I
died.
like.
I don't know.
Well, that's why I like that theory that like Saul ends up
Being the
basically
Acolyte.
end up being like framed more, not framed, but like taking the fall for what
Yeah.
Kumar did.
Takes
and
that
then,
vow of silence.
yeah, and then like nobody, and then they just assume he did it. So then there is no Sith. So there you go. Now, where can people find you on the internet, Ralph?
Go to casinoskunk.com. You'll find everything, including my show that we do every Wednesday, live action Star Wars that I do with my friend James. We cover the Acolyte as well, and anything new Star Wars related, as long as it's in live action, we're covering it. Also, I guess check out the movie I'm producing. It's a documentary about the show Lost. It's called Getting Lost. Go to gettinglostdoc.com. We are barreling closer to our premiere date, which is it's too soon. It's too soon. We have so much stuff going on, and my days have been sort of filled with that. But yeah, just go to casinoskunk.com. You'll find everything. I have a new show about Green Lantern, and I just want to mention something. Pat, Mark's been following me for a while.
Yeah.
This light here in the background has been flickering for about 3 years. And every single podcast I have that light on, and it flickers and flickers, and it's been a long time waiting for it to die. And I think it might have died on your show.
Oh,
I think it finally died on your show, because it's been off for like the last like 3 or 4 minutes. That's the longest I've ever seen it go out. So
Wow.
R.I.P. Light.
RIP light from the 50s.
We hardly knew you. Where can they find you, Adam?
You could find me on Instagram, Adam Daniel Danny. I'm not a big poster, so I'm going to take an opportunity to plug my girlfriend's podcast, if that's okay. Pillow Fright Podcast. It's girls talking about horror movies, and it's pretty cool. 3 good friends.
Oh, it came back.
Three girls talking about horror movies. They have really cool episodes coming out about premieres of Long Legs and Maxine. So Pillow Fright Podcast. Go ahead and give them a follow on all your socials. That'd be cool. And my girlfriend will love me for it.
There you go. But only for that.
And Issue One Productions is my production company that I started, and it is called Issue One because I'm a big fan of buying first issues of comics. Whenever I go to a city, I try and find a comic book store and just donate, basically, because I just spend too much money in comic book shops. If you could see my shelves full of comics. It is easy because you're like, oh, it's only $4. Oh, this book's only $30. And then you leave and you spend $270. So they got me, every single one of them.
Oh man! And then for us, you can find us at 2 different websites. One for people that know how to spell maneuver, and one for people that don't. So
I don't know how to spell it. So
yeah, so we got HoldoPod.com for Mike, so that you can get there.
So
right.
So, fun fact, I designed the Holdo Maneuver logo.
Oh, yeah.
And I struggled so much every time I tried to like redo it, or like for your Imperial March Madness, some stuff. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
M-A-N.
You're like, wait.
Let me just go to I just go to Google and type in what I think it's spelled like. And then they say, did you mean maneuver? I'm like, oh, yeah, I did.
So, cool. Thanks, Google. But yeah, I figured that was the safe bet to just get both of those just in case.
Right.
But yeah, thank you, Ralph.
Yes, thank you both.
And Adam.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And the last person to thank is, as always, we're grateful to George Lucas for creating the Star Wars universe.
Oh dear, thank the maker.
Bye, buddy.
Every time.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you, guys.